Tune in to the Real Estate Roundup with the River Counties Association of Realtors. Join us every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. on the Mix 104.1 as we explore the latest in real estate. Whether you're buying, selling, or just love real estate, don't miss our expert advice and exclusive insights. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's explore the dynamic world of real estate in our vibrant River Counties community. Catch Real Estate Roundup and make your property dreams a reality. Welcome to the River Counties Real Estate Roundup. And today, again, we are pleased to have Lisa Calfee back with us. Lisa,
hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and getting to the year starting and seeing where this market's going to go all year, right?
Yes, yes, we are.
It's going to be interesting. So hopefully it's a good year, and last year was a little bit flat. But today we're going to talk about the market. Lisa's going to give you some good details about the market summary, where it was last year compared to, what it was before, and how it's going to affect our buyers and sellers. So let's get into this here. And Lisa, what would you like to talk about first? You want to talk about the average list price? Or?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, everybody always wants to know, where are we at price-wise?
Right.
What are prices doing? So a seller wants to know, because if they're planning on selling their house, they want to know, can I still get more than what I could have gotten last year?
Sure.
How much more can I get? Or if somebody bought a house 2 years ago and now they have a life change and they really need to sell a house, are they going to be able to sell it for more, or are they just going to be flat? Right. And so that's an important number that everybody's always on the edge of their seat trying to see. And we are still seeing that prices are increasing. We're seeing that our average sale price, which, we have to consider what average means. Average is we take the high, the low,
right.
all of it, and we average it together. Our average sale price, we're hitting $359,268, and that's up 3.7% from 2024.
And that's all of Bradley County we're talking about,
all
right?
of Bradley
Yep.
County.
Okay.
And then if we look at our median sales price, so we're kind of looking at what is that middle point, right? Where are we hitting to where we can kind of see, what's our price range that's really where we're seeing kind of that middle point, which is going to be a lot of our first-time buyers are going to be in that price
Right.
point, those kinds of things. We're at $313,250.
Okay.
So, that's not that far off, but our median price has gone up some by 4.42%. So when you're looking at that from a seller standpoint and thinking about resale, if I paid $200,000 for a house that I bought a
Right.
year ago, if numbers continue to trend in the same fashion they did in 2025, could I increase that price by 3% and get it this year? Sure. And from this number and this data that we're looking at, you could potentially do that. And that is that we were in double-digit price increases year over year
Sure.
for about 3 years, starting in 2020.
Yeah.
So we are in now what we would consider a really healthy, balanced market.
Yep.
With those numbers.
Back to normal, stabilizing it. Is
Stabilizing,
what we're doing,
not
yeah.
fighting for a house.
Right,
and
right.
and that created a lot of strife for buyers and sellers. Both, sellers were tickled that they got 20 offers on their house, but it's also nerve-wracking, right? And then you have to hurry up and find a house, and on the other side, you got to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And in this little bit of slower moving houses, we can have some time to really think about it and have that one offer that you're diligently negotiating with to get that home sold, and then going out and finding a home and being able to choose between more than just one.
Well, and then it also eliminates buyer's remorse, because as we experience in the market, right, that, buyers kind of felt pushed into something because if they didn't react, it was gone, and then they were out without a house.
Absolutely. We were having open houses, and I'll never forget, I went to an open house. This was in 2020. I had a buyer that the only way we could see that house was in the open house. So we're
wow.
all walking in here, and it was the strangest thing, because here we are in the midst of COVID,
Yeah.
and we're all cramming into this house. It made no sense. There was no social
Right.
distancing,
Yep.
right?
Right.
So we're in there, and you couldn't possibly see the house the way that you needed to make that big of a life decision.
Yeah.
Because there were 20 people plus all crammed into this house trying to see it at the same time. And so it's just like anything else. If somebody wants what you want, you feel pressured to get it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that there were people that made really informed choices and possibly had some buyer's remorse and regret later. So this to me, as a real estate agent, I feel much more confident in my buyers being able to make the right decision about where they want to land, other than, just running, and let me just throw out, because there's two houses to choose from. I just got to pick one, right?
Yeah.
So now we're in that spot where you actually can take your time.
And you get to breathe a little bit.
Yes,
and
yes.
It kind of was like Black Friday, in a sense back then, because that open house opened up and everybody just converged on it. And I even, for myself, was looking at a house, and I remember, and I walked up and there's the line down the sidewalk, and I thought, this is just crazy, and I didn't buy that house, but boy, you walked in and everybody was like, okay, what are we going to do? And they're all having little private conversations in the corner of the house.
Yeah.
And,
what are we going to offer? Let's hurry up and get our offer. Yeah, I remember I held one and we had 40 people that came in, 40 families.
Wow.
And it was me, and my daughter was an agent at the time. She was working with me. And so we had to go to separate parts of the house because she had somebody that wanted to place an offer. I had somebody that wanted to place an offer. And then other agents were coming in with their people, and we had to make sure we weren't talking to each other.
Right.
It was unbelievable. But we're happy we're not in that market.
Yeah.
It was harem scarum. It was, trying to make sure that, your buyers and your sellers both had all their needs met. But this is a healthy market. This is a market that we can sustain.
Yeah. And, what we're reflecting back on, so the audience understands, is from December 24 to, throughout December of 25 as well, that you see the little bit of change, but as you just said, it's the average. It's the norm is where we're
It is
at.
the norm.
Yeah.
When I first got into real estate in 2013, I remember that back at that time, 13 years ago, that was a 2% year-over-year increase in price. Yeah. And now we're still holding strong at, almost a 4% increase.
Right.
And so I think if I'm a seller and I'm thinking, oh, I might want to sell, I'd think conservatively at 3, and give myself, in case things change a little, give myself a little bit of that buffer. If I get more, it's always gravy. That's wonderful.
Sure.
But that's definitely something that we can consider a healthy market.
Yeah, and normal appreciation rates, for all the years I've been in it, is about that 3 to 5%, and when you are at double digits, it's great, but it doesn't sustain itself,
Right,
So,
and if you buy in that market, it's almost like buying a brand new car and being upside down.
Yeah.
You can put yourself in that position where you're upside down in a house.
Right.
And I haven't come across a lot of people that bought in 2020 that haven't been able to get out from underneath the house.
Right.
But there were people who paid well over asking price, and they're having to wait a few years for that to kind of pay off a little before they can go ahead and sell and be able to have some equity that they can turn into another home purchase.
Definitely. So let's talk about average list price right now to sold price. What are you experiencing? So I'm a seller. I put my house on the market for $400,000. So I'm looking at what, 95% of a price, 96. What are we looking at?
So we're right at about 96.5% of asking price being received.
Okay.
So we're not going over, and all things are relative.
Sure.
So when I'm speaking with a seller and we look at what homes have sold in comparison to theirs, I'm looking at that to formulate a price that will stick so that we don't have appraisal problems. And if you price right out of the gate, you could still get that 100%. But if you're pricing well above what I come in and say, this is what the market can support, you can definitely plan on that 96% or maybe even a little lower.
Okay.
So you've got to look at all of the numbers and actually listen to your agent when your agent says, this is where I believe we should price the home. Because the thing about pricing a home is we've got to price it right for the market conditions and for the fact that there's going to be an appraiser with more brains than we have right now who's going to come in there and he's going to say, this is what the price is that I can support, and that's going to hold. And so we have to make sure that we're pricing appropriately to get the most bang for the buck.
And buyers are educated, and so are their agents, so they're going to help guide their buyer in that right direction, that this house is way overpriced, this one is priced where it should be in the market, reflecting it.
And the same thing, and what I'm seeing right now in our marketplace is I'm seeing that landowners that are selling raw land, those are the ones that are really thinking that they can just throw a price on it and it'll
Sure.
stick. And so we do have,
Yeah.
and granted, we do have a lot of homes on the market, so there's a lot of competition when it comes to homes, but there's not as much when it comes to raw land. And we
Right.
do see, I am really seeing a very big trend for people wanting to build and wanting to be out of a subdivision. They want to be on land, even if it's just 5 acres. It's
Right.
out of a subdivision. It doesn't have restrictions and an HOA, those kinds of things. I'm
Sure.
seeing people want more freedom. And so if you have land, yes, you do have a commodity, but it still has a value.
Right.
And it's going to be based on, the market and its highest and best use. And so I am seeing that land is what I'm seeing is typically the overpriced. Thing
And
out there.
And there's a ceiling on everything too. I mean, you can ask for it, doesn't mean you're always going to get it.
That's right. And sellers are making what we call concessions.
Right,
So we
sure.
are seeing negotiation. So
Good.
it's important that you hire the right agent that's going to have those good negotiation skills, because we are negotiating.
Sure.
And sellers are getting their closing costs paid all or partially by the seller, and maybe the seller's coming down a little on price too. So, everybody's having to give a little.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you're a great negotiator, and you've done well by your clients, and that is right. As a seller, I think you need to ask that with your realtor that you're interviewing, as far as what are your negotiation skills.
Absolutely.
What is your strength? And if your strength is negotiating, you need to tell the seller that. And I know you do a great job with that. So,
Well, it's definitely something that over time you learn how to do that.
Yep.
You also learn how to help your sellers not make an emotional decision,
Right.
but to make a financial decision.
Sure.
That's also something when it comes to price on homes that I see a lot. A seller will sit down, write out all the numbers, and say, we need this much in
Yeah.
order to make our next purchase. So we want to price it at X because that gives us that room to do what we need to do on the other side, and that's not how we price a home. Have to price a home, like we said earlier, based on the market, not based on what you need to do next.
Right.
And so those are honest conversations that I have to have with a seller, and I believe more than not they appreciate the honesty and straightforward answer,
Sure.
rather than, yeah, sure, I'll stick whatever price on it, because we definitely have to look at these numbers that we're talking about right now, because that's telling us what ultimately the view is of the market and what we can expect.
Right.
So, and then, as we're talking about this, average days on the market comes into play.
Sure,
So our
definitely.
average days on the market in 2024, we saw that we were at, average days on the market, we were at 58 and in December, and then we were at 55 in December of this year, so it went down a little. But as a year, we were at 43 days on the market in 2024. Now we're at 49 as our average.
Okay.
And so we're up 13.9%. So we're having to have some patience.
Right.
That's really what
Yep.
it's all about.
Yeah.
We've got more inventory creates more time on the market because there's more to choose from.
Sure.
So if you've got a house that's 400,000, there might be 50 other houses on the market in the county that are that price, and so they're going to have some things to choose from, right?
Yep.
And so average days on the market, just know that if you're not sold in the first 2 weeks, you're not in the minority.
Right.
That's our norm. And so it is mind-blowing for agents, because we just sit around and think, well, we don't sit around, but we're thinking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Right.
You're doing all
The
the
pressure,
things,
yeah.
and you just feel the pressure for your seller that you want to get those showings coming. But sometimes it's just about, this is where we're at, and you're going out and you're having a lot of choices, things to look at, so you just have more to choose from.
Right.
And so the right buyer comes. I tell my sellers it only takes one.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
don't need 20 showings. We just need that one showing that it's a perfect fit for them.
Yeah.
That's
And-
what we're aiming for.
And I've always lived by that. Your first offer is usually your best offer to negotiate it out.
It is. And you know what's amazing about that is I find that to be true probably 98% of the time.
Yeah.
Because that first offer, well, you're disappointed because maybe it's not as high as you wanted it to be, but you had that buyer ready and willing to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And you held out for the higher offer, and then I promise you it is typical that the next offer is lower than the first.
Yeah.
It's almost
yeah.
like clockwork.
Yeah.
You can expect it.
You don't think it's going to be, but for whatever reason, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It always falls like that. So
Absolutely.
we're in the middle of the show. Can you give your contact information? How do people can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. My name is Lisa Calfee with the Source Real Estate Group, and you can reach me on my cell at 423-802-0875, and you can also visit me at www.calfeeandcompany.com.
There you go. So our second half of the show, let's talk about the market statistics and numbers now. How does that set us up for this coming year for our, let's start with the buyers or sellers. I'll let you choose which one you want to go, but let's talk about that so people can understand what we're heading into.
So I had an interesting meeting with a lender that I've had on here as a guest recently, and we were talking about, we had some information come out last week that the president was doing some things with bonds
Right.
and all of that stuff, and as a layperson, we're like, what does that mean? What is
Sure.
that going to mean for me as a buyer in the marketplace? And so what he is doing, it is predicting that our interest rate will fall below 6 this year. And so that's a great place for us to be. We're obviously, interest rates are not what I do. I try to keep my finger on what's happening with my trusted mortgage partners. But what's interesting is it's always based on, your credit score and things like that. But most people are in the mid 6s right now. You're in that range.
Right.
So coming down potentially maybe a whole point this year could make a big difference in purchasing power.
Sure.
So that's going to make what that's going to do for you as a buyer is it's going to make things more feasible.
Right.
So you may have had one budget last year when the rates were higher and you waited. And so this would be the time to go back to that mortgage lender and say, okay, with a little bit of movement in mortgage rates, what would that do to my buying power? So would I be able to go ahead with a purchase at a little higher amount? Because maybe at
Sure.
that time last year, you weren't seeing anything that appealed to you on the market.
Right.
So if you bump up, let's say you bumped up 50,000 and it got you to where you wanted to be with that extra bedroom or the school zone that you wanted to live in. So that will open up some opportunities for buyers to be able to either let their price point go up and their budget go up, or it may just put you in a space where you really feel a little bit better about making that purchase and that you feel good moving forward. I know we're definitely going to continue to have inventory. One of the things that is kind of a misnomer is that we go through all of these like seasons with
Right.
real estate.
Yep.
I would say that I would challenge that, because I think that's just a narrative that's been created around real estate where
Right.
sometimes December is the busiest month I have all year.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, nobody wants to move around the holidays. Nobody wants to fool with all that because, it's the holidays. It's the end of the year. Well, you can't really base when you're going to make a move on what time of the year it is. It's personal for every person.
Sure. Yep.
And you'll have your reasons as to why you need to make a move and when you want to do that. But because that narrative is still there that says spring is the time, spring
Right.
is when we're supposed to
Yeah.
put our house on the market, that's when all the buyers get ready. Well, I would say that what that does is it puts you in a position to where everybody hits at the same time, and now there's all this competition.
Yep.
So as from a buyer's standpoint, you may say, well, if I wait to buy until the spring, I'm going to have so much to choose from. Well, do you really want that many options is
Right.
what I would say to that, because I find that when you get above looking at about 10 to 12 houses, you really start getting confused.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
everything runs together.
Yeah. You don't remember when you saw today, yesterday, whatever. Yeah, definitely.
And then then your head's just spinning and you're thinking, oh my goodness, do I like this one better? Do I like that one better? What should I do? What should I do? So sometimes less is more.
Right.
And if you see something that comes up in the ideal location with the things that you wanted, I wouldn't wait and let that pass me by, because that house in that location may not come available again for
Right.
another year. So I always encourage people, move when the life choice that you're trying to make is perfect for your family. Don't time it with what you feel like is always been told to you is the best time to sell.
Right.
So for a seller, I believe we are getting, we're going to be in that spot where you may have more buyers in the market.
Right.
So we may see a decrease in days on the market, and so I think that when we get interest rates have driven what's been happening over the last just about 3 years.
Sure.
But I will say that if we do see that they get below 6, I think it's going to excite people. And I had a seller call me this week, and they're going to build. So she says, I want to talk to you about we've bought and sold 3 houses together, and she said it's time for us to sell this one. And she goes, but I am absolutely sick at giving up this interest rate. I said, what's your interest rate? She said, it's in the 2s. Ooh. And I said, I know.
Oh,
I
it's
know.
tough, yeah.
It's hard to let go of that.
Yeah.
But they're wanting to make a life change that's important to them. And so, they've been in the house now for 4 years. So they've got a good chunk of equity that they can put towards the house that they're going to build. And so, they're feeling this is the time for their family, and it's the right time. And so I think as a seller that might buy on the other side, you're probably looking at that, 2 and 3% interest rate going, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I would say evaluate that from your personal level. Yeah. What is the driving force between selling or staying for you?
Yep.
Everybody's got different reasons.
If only we could take the interest rates with us from house to house.
Oh, wouldn't that be so nice? It'd be so nice. Like, this is your forever interest rate.
Right?
This is what you earned. This is what you get to keep.
Yep. You open up that prize and you get that 2%. You can keep it forever.
My goodness. Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be great. But you are right, because a lot of people in this industry have always counseled clients that, the spring market starts like the end of January, and then we get January, February, March, and everybody gears up for that. But you hit it on the head that December is not a bad time to buy, or even November, because it doesn't mean you're closing at that point. You're closing 30, 60, 90 days down the road.
That's right.
So you buy it in December, now you're closing at the beginning of spring almost, if you push it out to 90 days. So
that's right.
It's all put it in perspective. And you're right, too. If you pass on that house, as you just talked about with the rates, appreciation, and you wait for another year, well, now that next house just went up 3.5% or 4%. So what did you gain?
You didn't gain anything, because if you're listening to the numbers we were giving you, like you said, if I wait 6 months to a year and want that house in that neighborhood or another house in that neighborhood, then I was waiting on that interest rate to come down 0.25%, a quarter of a point, but it just raised the price 3%.
Right. So
I think the reason why we share these stats is so you can be informed and you can sit down and go, wait a minute, like I was thinking I'd sell and I'd move in a year, but I'm just going to have to add 3% potentially to the price I'm going to pay, and maybe more.
Right.
And so I know, we say this over and over, I know what today's price is, and I know what today's interest rate is. Right. I do not have a clue what that's going to be like 6 months to a year down the road. Right. And if you're a gambler and you're willing to roll the dice and risk that all changing, then you can do that and wait, or you can not take a chance and know what you're getting by making a decision now with the information that you do have. Yeah,
and it's such a life-changing event, and yet sometimes it's disregarded as to exactly you making that decision in the right manner. That it is a major move, and like you said, it's always a personal reason, whether it's a good situation or unfortunate situation. But yet, as human nature, we'll drive around and go 3 extra blocks for a gas price that's 4 cents less than the gas price that we just saw at another station.
Oh, for sure.
And yet with houses, we'll pass up a great opportunity at times, So.
That's right. That's right. We'll make sure we get the thrift prices, and have the joy of finding that excellent thing at a thrift store. But then when we see something that we're like, well, I think I might wait for it to come down a little bit more. Listen, if you're looking at a house thinking, oh, well, maybe we've said this a million times, maybe the market's going to crash, and in a year I can get that for rock bottom. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. And the what ifs, and we all realize in this industry that this is a major financial decision. Yeah. The largest one most of us ever make. Oh, yeah. So it does require thought, and it does require guidance, and that's what your agent is there for, and your mortgage lender, to give you the facts of what we have right now in front of us, and to really help you walk through that, and not, I'm not here to push people. I want you to have all the information, and then make the decision about whether or not you feel like this is the right step, the next step.
And it's their decision.
It
you
is,
can give them the
100%.
information, and it's their decision. And you hit it on the head earlier in our show, where you said it's emotional for them, and your agent should be the rational one.
That's right.
Because it should be emotional for a buyer and seller, and we understand that. But the agent has to be the one to give you the rational information, and what you do with that is your choice at the very end.
I just sold my own personal home.
Right.
So I get it.
It's still
I was emotional.
yeah.
And
Yes.
my business partner had to take over and be my agent because
Sure.
she's like, "You're not even reasonable." I'm like, but but we were in that seller mode of, I put all this money into this house
Yeah.
and I want to be able to get a little bit back as appreciation. All the thoughts that go through. And I would say that's one thing that's helped me the most in being a good agent,
Right.
is buying and selling myself,
Yeah.
and being on that other end of sitting there waiting by the phone, waiting for an answer about your, offer. Did
Yeah.
they accept it? Did they accept
Yep.
it? Did they accept it? And, like your agent is on the other end, and they're working and they're poking and prodding, and they're trying to get it, but you're sitting there on pins and needles going, what's the
yeah.
answer? So, it is an emotional decision, and that is part of our role, to kind of give you all the data, give you all the
Right.
ins and outs, help you make that decision, and let you understand what a healthy market looks like, and where we're at. And none of us can make predictions, but we can definitely sit down with good information and pass it along.
Well, and a good agent is one that's going to give you all of that, not just putting it on the MLS and the websites and stuff. That's not what your agent should be for. Your agent should be for the facts and get you from point A to point B with the best price they can get you.
And that is where we set expectations from the get-go.
Yeah.
When I sit down and talk about selling your house, my goal is to make sure you have all the information, so that your expectation is not that we're going to get an offer in the first week, if that's not typical.
Right.
Now, can we? Absolutely.
Sure. Yep.
I sold a house at the end of the year, and it was on the market for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in with our eyes wide open, and we were pleasantly surprised that we did get the right offer,
Yeah.
and we got it within 2 weeks. And so that was, very reassuring for the seller. And so there are going to be the times when you're at that full days on the market. There are going to be other times that the right buyer came along at the right time,
Right.
and came in and they were ready.
Yeah.
And so it only takes one.
Yep. You just never know.
That's right.
Yep. When it's there, make it work. Doesn't
That's
matter if they
right.
start your offer at $1, you'll figure it out to make it work.
That's right. That's right. Don't be scared of those low offers.
Right.
Don't be offended. Don't be scared. And honestly, as a seller recently, it was rough. I was like, oh my word, yeah, what in the world?
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to. How many times do we walk in to buy a car and go, I'm going to see if I can get them down?
Exactly.
You
Yep.
know, it's the same premise. People are, you got to give them credit. If
Oh,
they
yeah.
want to get it cheaper, more power to them. You just come back and say, no, here's
Right.
what I will
and
do.
move on. Yep.
That's right.
Lisa, it's been some great information on today's show. Can you give your contact information as we end up the show?
I'd love to. Lisa Calfee with the Source Real Estate Group, 423-802-0875, calfeeandcompany.com.
Thank you, Lisa. And as always, 8:30 on Saturday mornings, you can tune in. You'll be hearing Lisa for the next few months. And Lisa, we really appreciate your information.
Thank you so much. Pleasure
Thank you.
being here.
Do you imagine a career with flexibility and limitless income potential? It's possible by becoming a Realtor. The River Counties Association of Realtors, located right here in Cleveland, Tennessee, is ready to help you unlock your potential. We're your go-to resource for guiding you to obtain your Tennessee real estate license. We're more than just realtors. We're a vital part of our community. Partnering with local charities, we work tirelessly to make a difference. Join the River Counties Association of Realtors today, where your career can thrive and community can too. Visit rivercounties.com or call 423-476-5912. Your new path awaits.